Riders Against Teenage Suicide. Reason why I ran part of this, and we were a national body for the last 6-7 years. And the reason why the bikes are coming in, it's a draw card to be able to create awareness within the communities. So besides the bike's only the attraction, but the real kaupapa is the whakamomori. So I just want to before the bikes come in, because they'll actually take all the limelight sooner or later, but I just want to acknowledge to our people, the people here in Pukekohe, which is part of the waka o Taimi. A lot of our whānau from Ngāti Kipa, from Ngāti Kārewa, myself from Tahina, and all those that go all the way back up to Ngāroa Wahia, where we started from this morning, and out through to Mangatangi, up, and then further on up around Manukau and Otahu. Suicide is one of those things that are many, just like diabetes, just like cancer, just like anyway, just like diabetes and cancer. Only difference with suicide is that there's no cure. You can't go to the doctor and get a prescription or a medicine for it. So I've been campaigning about this kaupapa for the last 7 years, and what I've found throughout this haerenga is that there's certain age groups that actually take their lives. Just recently, for some of you, if you listened to the news last week, the youngest was 8 years old. That's our tamariki. 8 years old. For us as Māori, we treasure our tamariki as our most beloved, as we do with our old people, because they too are in the same category as any other person that commits suicide or whakamomori. What I've found is from the ages from 8 to 12, and some of you would relate to this, the older generation, is that when you were at school, the most common thing that contributed towards suicide for these kids today, not in my time, but today, is physical bullying and name calling. Simple as physical bullying and name calling. I got that when I was at school. Never did me any harm. The only difference is you can't tell your tamariki that today, because the way they communicate is like this. Son, go out and take the rubbish. Yeah, I can hear you there. Their level of communication isn't like kanohi ki te kanohi anymore, because they're talking to a small little technology gadget. How many of us can recognize or identify with that? So it's a common thing, not just here, not just in Ngāroa Wahia where I'm from, or down the port, or up north, or as far as Gisborne where we've been. We're down Taranaki next month for the same kaupapa. So these aspects happen all around the motu. So from the ages to 8 to 12, it's the physical and verbal bullying. From the ages from 12 to 19, can anybody take a guess what that might be? Anybody?
Peer pressure.
Not quite it. Alcohol and drugs. That is part of the contribution, but one of the biggest ones is what I just talked about, and it's these things here. iPhones, iPads, just phones. You know why? Because when I went to school, I walked in the library and had all these books on the shelves. Kids can access that right in this. So the level of knowledge that the kids access today is at their fingertips. If they want the answers to something, what do? Google it. So this is a reality. Whānau, from here today, you go back and you assess your kids and just observe. Just observe what they do, even your mokopuna, because they're just as clever. So the ages from 12 to 19, when I talk about technology, that's what we call cyberbullying. Texting, Facebooking, Snapchat, you name it, rangatahi can verbally on these things here, what we call cyberbullying, directly send a message, an ugly message to their mate. I just finished saying that because when you talk to your tamariki, they don't have that level of kanohi ki te kanohi. So what I mean is that they can't look at you or the person they're texting or Facebooking and look at what type of day that person's having, whether that person's crying, whether that person's happy or not. They don't have that level of direct contact. Like I can see now with you, if you're hot, if you're cold, I can see that now. But when the kids are on Facebook, when the kids are texting, they just send it straight out. They don't hold back. So cyberbullying is one of the key contributors from the ages 12 to 19. And this is the biggest area of whakamomori that's happening right now between the ages of 12 to 19. From the ages of 19 to 40, can anybody guess what that might be? Some of the contributions. Anybody?
I know.
Drugs and alcohol. That is one of the biggest contributions, but the thing that really contributes to drug and alcohol is no money. Hold on, my bro. No money. So if you got no money, you obviously got no job. Hey. So I'm trying to get our whānau to understand this. You got no job, you got no money, so what's your next level of call? You're going to tāhai or pinolo, smokes, drugs, alcohol. All right? He's in that category from the ages of 19 to 40. You think about it, if some of you that are grandparents now, and you look at your tamariki, that may be 30 years old, they still your tamariki, but you look at them, if they got no work, they've got kids, they haven't got any money, what type of quality of life are they giving your mokopuna? What type of quality of life are they giving your kids? If they got no money, their choices are very limited. Kapai, you agree?
Aye.
So, from that age group, from 19 to 40, it's really the jobs, the no money, the stress level, the anxiety starts creeping up. And a lot of us actually fall into that category. For whatever reason that may be, whether governments don't provide job, whether there's jobs out there but you aren't skilled or qualified for it, and you think you're no good for it, the level of anxiety, the level of stress you're creating in your life or around your whānau, that's another big contributor to suicide. If you look back 6 months ago, or maybe even months ago, the dairy prices amongst the dairy industry, what actually happened there was that the dairy payout actually dropped. Now those people that had mortgages with Fonterra, their mortgages they dropped. They still got to pay the same mortgage every month. But when you're getting a low milk fat content payout, and you get a lump of money put in your hand, it's lower than what you're normally used to paying back to the bank. 9 farmers last year alone took their lives simply because of that. So financial strife is a high contributor to this whole ordeal. And from the ages from 40 to 60 is our adult kids leaving their tamariki for the grandparents to look after. They can't handle their kids, they can't look after their kids, so they give it to their koro. Hello? They've just spent 60 years looking after their own kids. They're on a pension. They're trying to live themselves and give themselves quality of life. When you get up to that age, what are their factors that contribute to them? Their health problems. So the amount of money that our tarawa and kuia live on is barely enough for them just to look after, let alone having to look after the mokopuna. Now, I know a lot of you fellows whānau in here can relate to that. You know why? Because you're the same colour as me. I go straight back home with my whānau too. So that's a big contributor from 60 years plus and up. And yes, you hear this on the news, and you hear some of these things where this thing called euthanasia. Anybody know what euthanasia is? It's something, I'll describe it like this, where old people, they won't tell you, but how many of us have said, kia ora koro, how are you feeling today? Oh, pai ana moko, pai ana. That's what they tell you. But as I said, from the age of 60 and up, what do our old people experience? Health issues. They're not going to tell you whether they're sick. They're not going to tell you whether they mamai on the inside. So they don't want to bother you. What they psychologically think in their head is, I'm on my way out. Mokopuna, don't worry about me. You've got a life to live. And there have been, I think it was 17 cases of that happening last year from that age group of 60 plus. So finally, it's a reality. It just doesn't happen from the ages of 8 all the way to 12, or 12 all the way to 19, or 19 all the way to 40. It also happens with our kaumātua. And I know a lot of us have heard these stories about asking your koro or your nana if they're okay. And their natural response is, yes, I'm kawhai mokopuna. Literally, they're not. And if anything, you, as their uri, would understand directly how your mother, father, kuia, karaua are feeling at that time. So finally, I just wanted to share a little bit of this, just so that you fellas can go home and assess in yourself and your own family. As we say in our circles in the R.A.T.S here, is that suicide doesn't take away the pain. All it does is gives it to somebody else. Now, I've just talked about the contributors to suicide. What I can't talk about is when somebody commits that act. Because if I knew the answer to that, I could save lives and everybody else could too. But this is the one big question is in the middle. I can't talk about the act as to why they took their lives. What I can tell you is the contributors before that may have contributed to why they committed the act, and I can definitely tell you about what happens after that. Because we as a whānau go through all the mamai process. If you've been directly affected by suicide, 9 times out of 10, you won't talk about it. Why? Because you don't know how to answer the problem, that problem. You're sitting in your head, you think, geez, I just saw him or her the other day, and they were happy as. And for rangatahi, they have up and down modes or moods, where they could be happy one day, they could be down sad. But our tamariki today, our rangatahi today are very unpredictable, whānau. So if you love your rangatahi, if you love your tamariki, try a different approach as to when my parents brought me up and say, son, hard enough, just get out there and do as you're told. Trust me, you can't tell your kids today, eh? They take an offense to it. So in my experience, whānau, the pain that people carry after the act is committed, this is the part as to why we're here, is to create the awareness, is to bring whānau to the forefront and talk about the experience. Because we've found that in the experience, we're hoping that that can minimize, if not intervene, to stop any one of our whānau from committing this type of act. But it's hard to try and get our whānau to come up and talk about their mamai, because it's a time process. It's when they're ready. I can't force that. Nobody else can force that. It's when they're ready to talk about their mamae. But whānau, to those that are strong enough to share your story and to let our own whānau, it's in the old days when it used to be topic to talk about this stuff, we can't anymore because the rate of our losing our kids and our rangatahi is too fast for us to come out and bring this information and talk about it. So in our circles, we call this the ngāngara and taniwha of death. In time, we encourage for those that have personally gone through this whole ordeal to hopefully one day come forward and share your story. We've also taken this back home on the marae. I sit in te whakakitinga o Taumi, and all of this is brought to the fore with a lot of our marae. But whether whānau take it on board is another story. And the reason if they don't take it on board is simply just because of lack of information. With the many other issues that we have amongst our whānau and our marae, hapu and iwi, this is just like cancer, this is just like diabetes. As I said, there's just no answer to it. And that's all I can say. But nō reira te whānau, la mihi kia koutou, thank you for your time. I just hope that I've shared something little and for you to go home and just observe your mokapuna, observe your tamariki, observe your mum and dad, observe your kraua and your kuia. And trust me, if you just sit there and look and observe, you'll learn a hell of a lot about people. So, when the boys roll in, when I left Aotearoa here, I had to clean up the marae and take the keys back and hand all that stuff back to Ngā Middle up here. And we cut a track straight from Aotearoa here, up the back road here in Te Pakane and from Tūkau. I actually thought they'll be here, but nonetheless, when the boys get here, they're here for the kaupapa. But I just hope that you fellas are able to share as much light about this kaupapa as the excitement about seeing the bikes come in. Here they are. At the end of the day, we ride away from this kaupapa, but the mamae is still left with the whānau. All right? And we're lobbying to the government that they don't do enough services to help our whānau. Ngā mihi kia koutou whānau. It's watch time now for...
Tēnā koe, Edu. Kia ora.